So Laurel, you go into prisons to visit and support women, but if we met you at 12, I guess you didn't want to do that. What did you want to do when you were younger?
I definitely wasn't going to go to prison. So I was intending probably at 12 to be a sports teacher,
Yeah.
PE teacher, or possibly to be a kindergarten teacher.
Okay, what waylaid you? Because kindergarten teacher to going in to support women in prison is a little different.
A little bit different, yes, it is. Look, when I became a Christian, I was brought up in a Christian home, but I made a more serious commitment when I was about 19. And then I thought, well, you know, in churches they talk about having a calling. And I thought, oh, what's my calling? I thought, oh, I don't know what that is. And so I just felt God say, if whatever opportunities you get, just take them. You know, I guess at the time, the slogan from Nike, which said, just do it, really spoke to me. I was like, you never know what you're called to do unless you try things. And so I had an opportunity to go into what was called Winner-Leighton Youth Training Centre back then, which was a sort of a detention centre for young offenders and also those who are young girls who were homeless and had been abused and neglected at home. And so I had really no enthusiasm to do that, but I took my opportunity and yeah, that really changed my life very quickly and my whole perspective on the world, I think. Yeah.
Did that go from like a volunteer role to a sort of staff position? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it did. What happened was I went in and I was staggered at how many kids had nobody. So at that time, these young girls were often eligible for day leaves or weekend leaves, and they had no one to take them out on day leaves and weekend leaves. And I couldn't, and they had no visitors and they had no one to get out to, and I couldn't get my mind around not having anybody. And I sort of developed a slogan then that no one should have no one. And I was so moved by their stories that I ended up as a youth worker, and things developed from there. So I worked with young offenders and homeless youth for quite a few years, but unfortunately a lot of the young women that I were dealing with graduated to an adult prison.
Did your mum, when you said you were going to be a youth worker in prisons, how enthusiastic were your parents about that?
Enthusiasm is not the word that comes to my mind, quite the opposite. In fact, I remember coming to them, so I'd been a volunteer for 3 years, and I said, I think I need to leave my job, which actually then was as working in childcare. I deferred my kindergarten course, which I had followed that through, but I deferred it, and I came to them and I said, look, I've got this really good idea. What I'm going to do is I'd like to work as a youth worker for Youth for Christ. I won't get paid for it, and I think I should leave my good job with the council to do that. What do you think? And enthusiasm, yeah, wouldn't be what their response was. I thought that was ridiculous. But I thought, you know what, if I'm meeting a need that I feel God would want it, I think God's heart breaks for hurting people like that. Yeah. And I just thought, He will supply my needs. So they thought that was ridiculous, but they said, oh, look, we'll go away and pray about it. And they prayed about it, and 2 days later they changed their mind.
Wow.
So that was pretty massive, but when I very first started as a volunteer, my mum came to me and she said, look, I like to encourage you in whatever you do, but I don't think you'll last 3 weeks. It's a very long time ago now, Karl. I don't think I should tell you how many years, but
that's right. Yeah, let's just say it's been a fair while after 3 weeks. So you go into a prison now. What's that environment like? So
physically it's beautiful. There's a lot of, in women's prisons particularly, so we only do women's prisons. It's a lot of flowers, the garden's kept beautifully, it's reasonably modern, and it's nice. I guess it's what goes on behind some of the walls. So there's a lot of women in there. Well, interestingly, some would say it's been the best time of their life because they felt safe, they had a sense of community, and there was always someone to talk to.
Wow.
And for a lot of the women, that's very foreign to them.
Yeah.
For others, they're petrified. It's the lowest moment in their life. It's very common for women who are or have been in prison to try to take their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, the prison system is set up so that it's very hard to take your own life, but it does happen, and it certainly happens to those leading up to it. So there's a lot of sadness, and there's a lot of women who never come out of their rooms.
Wow.
So you get the,
Hey,
it's both.
when you go to see them and you're in your role as a support worker, what are you trying to achieve?
I think that it can be the darkest time of someone's life, and having someone who cares and listens can go a long way. It's amazing how you often, you might meet a woman in the community who hasn't been in jail for 10 years, and they'll come and they'll say, oh, remember when you did this, I remember when you did this. And I guess prisons can be a very dark place in a lot of ways, and so sometimes it doesn't take much to, a little bit of kindness can go a long way. And we just want the women to feel worth and value and hope. A lot of the women lose hope that their life could ever be anything but miserable, and where people abuse them and stuff like that. And so, we try to say something different.
Those who are in prison are offenders in the legal system in some way, but is it also true that a lot of them are victims?
Oh, very much so. So unfortunately, a huge percentage, and I won't quote a percentage, but a very high percentage have been sexually abused as little girls. And sometimes that's happened once, and sometimes it's happened over a period of many, many years. And they've often been taken advantage of in a lot of ways. Some women move into prostitution because they've been abused all their lives, and they're at a point they might as well be paid for it. And when they live that sort of at-risk lifestyle on the street, often crime happens too, just through desperation. Very often there's generations of disadvantage. There's a struggle for role models, and sometimes criminality is the norm in the families that we deal with. And I guess we would say it a lot within our agency that some people have just never had a chance, really.
Are you able to encourage people that are exploring faith?
Yeah, so prisons are very much a spiritual place. I think there's a saying that says, no one's an atheist in the trenches. And that's true when you're really confronted with life, and you're at your most desperate. Sometimes there's nowhere to look but look up. So there's a lot of exploring. In fact, I was talking to a woman just last week who said, I said, I noticed you filled in on your referral form that you would like to speak about spiritual things with someone. She said, yes. She said, it's really only when I've been to prison before that I think about God, but I want to explore that more.
Yeah, which would be an enormous surprise to people, because they think, these people who are offenders in some way, they're sent to prison, they wouldn't be interested in God, church, faith, but that's not the case.
Oh, very much the opposite. I mean, if I'm sharing with people in my neighbourhood, they've got their nice big house and their 2.3 children and a great job, and they're not thinking about sometimes grappling with what's really important in life. But sometimes these people, they've had everything taken away from them, and they start to grapple with, well, what's life all about? Is there someone out there for me? I would say it's a very spiritual place.
Wow.
Yeah.